So, you've probably heard of Stephen Bartlett's book, The Diary of a CEO. It's packed with these fundamental laws for life and business. But, the real question is, how do you actually apply them? Well, that's what we're going to do here. We've distilled the most powerful principles into a visual guide to give you a clear roadmap for building your potential, mastering your own mind, and really achieving that long-term success. Let's start with a big question, one that really sits at the heart of the entire book. Just for a second, forget about talent, forget about luck. What's the one thing, the raw material that truly determines your potential for greatness? The answer, it turns out, is surprisingly simple, and it's something you have total control over. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to build the foundation with what Bartlett calls your 5 buckets. Then we'll dive deep into the internal mechanics of your mind. After that, we'll look outward at the psychology of influence. And finally, we'll put it all together with the engine for long-term success. All right, let's dive right into part 1, the foundation. The whole idea here is that all of our potential, everything we could possibly hope to achieve, is built on just a handful of key areas in our lives. This whole idea really hit home for Bartlett when he asked the guru Radhanath Swami a really interesting question. He said, what's more noble, building a business or going to Africa to save lives? And after this long, thoughtful pause, the guru just said, you cannot pour from empty buckets. The lesson? You have to fill your own buckets first before you can help anyone else. So Bartlett has this great way of visualizing this. Picture your potential as 5 separate buckets. The combined contents of these buckets, well, that's your total professional potential. How full they are really sets the limit for how big you can dream. So what are these 5 buckets? Let's run through them. Number 1, knowledge. Pretty simple. It's what you know. 2 is skills. This is what you can actually do with that knowledge. 3, your network, who you know. 4, resources, the stuff you have, like money or assets. And number 5, your reputation. Basically, what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. Now listen, the order you fill these in, it's everything. You absolutely have to fill them in the right sequence. And here's why. Imagine a professional earthquake hits. You lose your job, a business fails. It can wipe out your network, your resources, and your reputation overnight. But the one thing it can never take away from you is what you know and what you can do. Your knowledge and skills, that's the real foundation. Okay, so once that foundation is in place, it's time to look inward. We're moving on to part 2, your mind. Once you start filling your buckets, the very next step is to master the internal machine that runs the whole show. This is all about understanding your habits and, maybe more importantly, challenging your beliefs. Every single habit you have, whether it's good or bad, runs on this tiny little loop inside your brain. It all starts with a trigger or a cue. That trigger kicks off a routine, which is the behavior itself. And that routine gives you some kind of reward, which basically tells your brain, hey, that was good. Let's do that again. And this is why just using willpower to crush a bad habit almost never works, right? The trick isn't to fight the loop, it's to hack it. You identify the cue that starts it all, you keep the reward that your brain is craving, but you consciously swap out the old routine for a new, better one. Bartlett shares this incredible analogy from when he was learning to drive. His instructor told him, the car will go where your eyes are looking. If you stare at the tree on the side of the road, you're going to hit the tree. It's the same exact thing with habits. Don't focus on stopping the bad behavior. You have to put all your energy and focus on the new routine you actually want to build. But look, it's not just our habits we're up against. Our brains are literally hardwired to run away from uncomfortable stuff. They call this the ostrich effect, our natural tendency to just ignore negative information. It's why we don't check our bank balance when we know it's low, or we put off that difficult conversation. We bury our heads in the sand. So how do you fight this? Bartlett lays out a simple 4-step cycle. First, just pause and acknowledge that something feels wrong. Second, review yourself. Try to figure out why. Third, speak your truth. Talk to someone you trust about it. And finally, seek the truth by actually working towards a solution instead of just avoiding it. Okay, so we've looked inside our own heads. Now let's zoom out and look at the world around us. This is part 3, your world. This is where we learn how to shape our external environment by understanding the subtle but incredibly powerful psychology of influence. Do you remember the famous Pepsi challenge? This is a perfect example. In blind taste tests, more people actually liked the taste of Pepsi. But, and this is the crazy part, when they could see that iconic red Coca-Cola can, their preference completely flipped. The brand, The story, the frame around the drink literally changed how it tasted to them. Okay, take a look at this. I mean, your brain is screaming that the top line is shorter, right? But nope, they're exactly the same length. It's an illusion. The little arrows on the end create a frame that tricks your perception. The health wearable company Whoop did the same thing. By getting rid of the clock face, they framed their device not as just another watch, but as an elite health tool. And boom, its value shot through the roof. This is just genius. A masterclass in reframing a problem. Customers were complaining that pizza delivery was too slow. So what did competitors do? They tried to deliver faster. But Domino's realized the real problem wasn't speed. It was the anxiety of not knowing where your pizza was. Their pizza trucker didn't make the pizza get there 1 second quicker, but it solved the real psychological problem by giving people a sense of control. All right, this brings us to the final piece of the puzzle, the engine. We've talked about the foundation, the mind, and the external world. Now, let's talk about the principles that actually drive long-term, sustainable success. Jeff Bezos from Amazon has this brilliant way of thinking about decisions. He splits them into two types. Type 1 decisions are like walking through a one-way door. They're huge, they have massive consequences, and you can't go back. You have to make those slowly and carefully. But most decisions in life, they're type 2. They're two-way doors. You can always turn around and go back. Those, he says, you should make quickly, because real progress means you have to be willing to try things and pivot fast. Okay, this next idea is one of those that just sticks with you. Picture your health as a table. Now, everything else in your life, your job, your family, your passions, your money, all of it is sitting right on top of that table. You can lose things from the table and still be okay. But if the table itself breaks, everything comes crashing down. This next thought can be a little confronting, but it's so powerful. Just look at this chart for a second. Maybe find your own age. Based on average life expectancy, it shows you how many days you have left. Now, this isn't about being morbid or grim. It's a tool for absolute clarity. When you see time as a real, finite number, it forces you to focus on what truly, deeply matters. And this is exactly what Steve Jobs was talking about in that famous speech. For him, the thought of death wasn't something to fear. He called it life's greatest invention. Why? Because it just strips away all the noise, all the external expectations, all the pride, all the fear of failure, and it leaves you with only what is truly important. All right, let's end with one last thought experiment, this one from Warren Buffett. Imagine a genie appears and offers you the absolute car of your dreams, any car you want. The catch? It's the only car you will ever get in your entire life. How would you treat it? You'd read the manual cover to cover, you'd fix every tiny scratch, you'd protect it with your life. You'd care for that car like nothing else. And of course, that's exactly the position you're already in. You only get one mind and one body, and they have to last you a lifetime. So the ultimate question the book really leaves us with is this. Knowing they're the only ones you'll ever get, how will you take care of yours?